Hi, welcome back. For this tutorial, we're going to make a pretty simple little fork bracket. You can see it has two holes and a long slot in it. If we take a look at the drawing for this part, you'll notice that the drawing is metric. All the measurements are in millimeters, so we're going to need to make sure and change that before we get started. Also notice that there's some nice round edges here, so we're going to have to put in a fillet. So let's go ahead and get started. We can get started by clicking on New Part. Go ahead and say OK. And we're going to want to come up to Document Properties and Options and change our units to be millimeters grams second. All right. Now to get started, if we want to think about what plane we should start on, remember the general shape of our part. There's really two options here. This face has a lot of information on it, right? You can see that the part is jogged, as does this face where you can see the two holes and the slot in the part. I'm going to go ahead and choose to draw this side first, and then I'll add the holes and slot later. So if I go look at the drawing, I can get my dimensions from there. Looks like the whole part overall is 264.2, and the jog is at 180, and the part is 15.8 millimeters thick. So if I come back to Solidworks, I can go ahead and start my new part. I've got a sketch open, so I'll just grab the line tool. And I remember you want to start on the origin always, and as I come across, notice that there is an angle and numeric value right next to my pointer. So I'm going to come out to about 180, doesn't need to be exact, right? So we can come up to 182, go up till it's about 15, come back across and up about 50, and then out, let's see, I'd need to go 80 more, approximately down 15 or so, back across. And notice the guides that pop up. So when I come to be vertical from the origin, there's a little dashed line that appears. And so I'll click right on that dashed line to make sure that my lines end up in the right spot. Okay. Now I can go ahead and add some dimensions. I know that this dimension here was 180 millimeters, and that the overall dimension was 264.2. Okay, and I know that the part is 15.8 millimeters thick, so I can add a couple more dimensions here. All right, so the part's looking pretty good, but you can still see you have some undefined edges here, and if you can't tell what's undefined about them, you can always grab them and try and move them, and you can figure out that you need to add a dimension for height here. So let's flip back over to the drawing and see how tall the part is. It looks like the part is 70 millimeters tall, so I'll go ahead and add that in. Add smart dimension, click on this edge, and come out to 70 millimeters. And you want to be careful where you place your dimensions, because in the future we're going to be able to import those dimensions automatically to a drawing. And so make sure you place your dimensions someplace where they make sense. All right, when I'm done with the sketch, I can click on Exit Sketch, come over to Features, and extrude the feature. And I can't remember how wide it is, so I'll go back and check the drawing. Looks like it is 70 millimeters wide. All right, so the other thing I'm going to look at while I'm here is that the two holes are located 68 millimeters from the jog, and they have a diameter of 20.6 millimeters and are separated by 32 millimeters. All right, so I'll head back over to finish this extrusion up. Looks like it was 70 millimeters wide. Okay, now I need to open a new sketch on this plane to add my holes, so I can highlight the face and then click on Sketch on the flyout menu. I like to use the perpendicular too, so I can see what I'm drawing here. And I'll grab my circle tool, draw one circle. It's about the right size, and then I can come down and I get a little pop-up to help me to get the two circles vertical. I can add some dimensions here, so from the center of the circle to the edge was well, wasn't 100. I can't remember what it was. So let me flop back to the drawing and I'll take a look. Well, it looks like it wants me to put that in there. It obviously wasn't 100. Looks like it is 68, 32, and 20.6. So I can come back. If I want to modify a dimension after I've put it in, I can double click on it and say 68. I'll add that dimension for this circle as well. I'll add the separation between them. 32. And I'll add the dimension 20.6 and 20.6. And they're still undefined, which if I want to see how they're undefined, I can grab them and see that they can move up and down. And so I need to add that dimension. And it looks like they're 19 millimeters off the edge. So I can go ahead and add that. Okay, and we're fully defined, so I can go ahead and cut those holes right on through the part. Okay, now I need to add my slot, so let's go take a look at the dimensions for the slot. It looks like the slot is 35 millimeters at the beginning and 30 millimeters wide. So it's centered and 30 millimeters wide by 106 long. So I can open a new sketch on here. Again, remember I like my perpendicular to tool. And I'm going to go ahead and start this by using my rectangle tool. And then I'm going to need to put a circle on the end of it. And if I mouse over the end of that rectangle, I can grab the midpoint and then put a circle on it. But this has left me with multiple contours, so I need to use the trim command to remove those center things. So I click and hold to drag across, and that will delete the different parts that I don't want. And now I can dimension this guy. It was 30 wide. And it was 35, it was centered, so I can go ahead and put this dimension of 35 on here, which will cause it to be centered. Ah, but now I have a problem. This is no longer going to be a complete circle. So what I can do is I can click on that point and drag it. And better yet, I can go ahead and click on a smart dimension to add for 100. Okay, and features, extrude cut. And look at that, we now have our forked part. The last thing we need to do is add a couple fillets. The fillets had a radius of 5 millimeters on them. And this part was filleted here. And I can roll around and grab here. It was also filleted up here on these two spots. And down at the very bottom at these two spots. Okay. If I like all my selections, I click check. And it adds in those rounds for me. Okay. Tune in next time and we'll talk about how we could have done dimensioning a little bit more efficiently by using sketch relations.